Well, this is fancy and new. I'm liking the countdown before we start recording. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Good, how are you?
Very well, thank
Good.
you. How are you doing, Alex?
Good. Getting used to this new Riverside fiasco that's going on.
We're not paying them any money yet. Stop
Well,
brand
it doesn't
naming
matter
them.
if we're not. We might be paying them money.
No.
We might. We should, because this is already better than Craig.
No.
Put Craigbot in the bin.
Oh, poor Craigbot. We'll never hear the now recording.
Now
Boom,
recording.
boom. So we're all well? We're enjoying the slightly cooler weather now?
Today was beautiful.
It's been nice. It's been very wet here, but it's been good temperature.
That's just because you're about, Tim.
Damn right, baby.
He has that effect on the weather and the ladies.
I make him cry.
Very good.
So, if anyone's been paying attention to what we say as our running order, you might be thinking the guys are here to talk about Devil May Cry 5, and you'd be absolutely wrong because, well, two of us didn't manage to get through enough of it.
This guy.
This guy and this guy.
Not that
Tim-
guy.
Tim is the only one who actually puts any work into this show.
Nuh-uh.
God bless you, Tim.
Nuh-uh.
You keep this afloat.
Don't
So
deny
rather than-
that you're the only one doing work, Tim. It's the only time that anyone's ever said that you've done the most work.
What do you... No, it's not true, though.
No,
I won't be fucking slandered against.
Can you have a positive slandering?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's called a compliment, Tim.
Never heard of it.
So we're going to be talking about some Souls-like games,
Hey,
which is a nice surprise.
Wait, is this Thanks I Hate It?
No, believe it or not, this is Game Club.
Wow.
I know. We should have saved it for a Thanks I Hate It, but we needed something quick and easy. But before we get into that, gentlemen, we're doing boss rush games. So, what's your favourite boss in any game? Or your best boss gimmick? And I don't want Souls-like games, Joey.
The Serpent.
You're
Can you
gonna
tell
have
me
to-
what that's from?
You're going to have to be way more... It's a Souls-like, isn't it?
Nope. Tim, come on. Where's the Serpent from?
I'm trying to think.
What's the game of the year every year?
Oh, Balatro.
Oh my God.
I was trying to think of one of the only bosses in Balatro that I like, and it's the
All
Serpent.
right, so what does the Serpent do, Joey?
So every time, no matter how many cards you play or discard, it gives you 3 back. So you can spend all of your discards discarding a single card, and each time you get 3. So you end up with a hand with like 30 cards in it.
It's ridiculous.
It's
Can I
the
go
best
for a
Souls-like
Souls-like
ever.
for mine? Because my favourite boss is a Souls-like boss.
Mine too.
Go on then, guys.
Mine's the Abyss Watchers from Dark Souls 3.
The first controversy on Game Club Pod.
Good boss fight. It's basic. Okay, so the whole thing with it is, in terms of the lore, like the staging for the fight is fucking incredible. You're going through this swamp where everything's trying to kill you, and as you approach this boss arena, hid behind these giant doors, you can already hear there's a fight going on. So that's already different for Dark Souls. That's already a huge departure. And then when you actually get in there, you see one guy stab another guy who looks identical to himself, to the first guy. And it's like, oh my God, there's some intrigue. It then becomes a one-on-one. And then as the fight progresses, it becomes a 2-on-1 because another version of the guy that you're fighting appears and you have to fight a 2v1. Now, these guys are called the Abyss Watchers. They're there to fight creatures from the Abyss, but they've spent so long in the Abyss that they themselves have become infected by it. So when a third one rises, it becomes a 2v2 because the two that you were fighting are now seeing there's a third target who is also Abyss infected. So it becomes this really interesting back and forth about trying to balance a 2v1 into a 2v1 in your favor until the guy who resurrected him was initially on your side then starts fighting you. But then after that, in the second phase, it becomes essentially just a powered up version of the initial fight, but it's still a fair sword fight. All the attacks are fairly telegraphed. The music is stunning. The arena is simple with no terrible gimmicks or anything. It's just an incredible fight.
So I've got to ask Tim, how long before you become a Southern Watcher?
How many Southerners am I going to fight?
How many do you think you could take?
None. I would lose first.
Alex, mine is also from a Soulsborne game because they're the best games going. I was toying between a few. If only someone had released an episode of DLC about what makes a great boss fight. I've already done
was
it,
ages
guys.
ago.
Yeah, it was ages ago.
Ago.
Ludwig the Accursed from Bloodborne.
Oh, that's a good fight.
Is my favourite fight, but I also wanted to put an honourable mention in for Godric the Grafted from Elden Ring.
That's a good fight.
And you would know Godric from one of the games we're going to play this time, Alex, as the Grafted Monk. The reason Godric's in there because he's cool is his whole thing is that he just cuts limbs off of other people and sticks him to himself. He's a pretty gnarly guy and not someone you'd want to invite over for dinner. But after you drain his first health bar, it's pretty challenging at that stage in the game, and you think, oh, that's it. And then the health bar fills up again. He chops his arm off and then just sticks a dragon head where his arm was and breathes fire with it, and it's absolutely immense.
It's metal as fuck.
But Ludwig the Accursed is another two-phase fight from Software. But the whole thing, he's like a half man, half horse, half... I don't even know how you describe him, but he's been in search of the creatures in Bloodborne and gone mad. He was a hunter. And the first phase is a beast fight, where he's like throwing himself around, he's jumping from the ceiling, he can one-hit you very easily, and this is late in the game. And then once you defeat that, which is challenging enough, you then got a more humanoid version where he picks up a sword, which is the Moonlight Greatsword, which is in every From Software game. And he almost regains some of his composure and fights you as a hunter again. But the arena, the boss itself, the boss design, the moveset that he has, the music, they're all 10 out of 10. It's unbelievable.
If you want to listen to a piece of music that will just fill you with adrenaline, the second half of Ludwig the Accursed soundtrack is outstanding. I'm surprised it's not being used in the medical field.
For surgeries.
It's for surgery.
We've got to get this surgery done quick.
We've got to get it done in the next 5 seconds.
How about you, Alex?
It's one that I've mentioned in that DLC that you did, Joey. It's Final Fantasy XIV's got a lot of very good bosses, but the problem is most of them are not that memorable after I've not played it for a few years, so a lot of them aren't that memorable. You remember Ifrit, Bahamut, Leviathan. My favourite is Shiva, one of the primals, just because it's a great soundtrack to it at first. Yeah, okay. It's a big scary ice woman. Okay. One of the key mechanics with her is she will telegraph either I think it's a sword or a spear. You have to watch what she's holding, and depending on whether she's got the sword or the spear, you either have to group up on the tank or get to the other side of the tank. And if you miss that mechanic, it's pretty much a party wipe, which is great fun. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's another one of these great arena, great soundtracks. One of the few that I remember from playing the game.
Is Final Fantasy XIV? It's not turn-based combat.
No. It's an MMO.
It's an MMO.
I feel like Final Fantasy lost a lot of the romance for me when it stopped being turn-based combat.
I think I've gone on this record on this podcast before saying that Final Fantasy XIV is the most fun I've ever had with an MMO. I think it's the single most engaging MMO I've ever played.
I don't think I've ever played an MMO.
It's just because Tim likes Catboys.
No, shut up. Stop.
Stop exposing me.
No, I would love to give Final Fantasy XIV another go.
Well, who knows in the future? We did Final Fantasy VII. Maybe it's just double that.
It's double the fun.
Just got to play it twice back to back.
Yeah.
It's
the same logic as having 5 PlayStation 1s. It means you have a PlayStation 5.
Yeah. That's how I got it day one.
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. And if you have 6 PlayStation 2s, you can get like 8 PS5s or something.
You just duct tape them all together.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
It is how it works.
Right, before this gets too stupid, we're now
What do you
going to
mean
go
before?
into the real...
How many Xboxes do you have to duct tape together to get an Xbox 360?
Oh, there's so many.
But only one
It's
of them
like a
for an
tower
Xbox.
block.
Only one of them for an Xbox One.
How many of them do you have to tape together for a 360?
360 of them. Come
That
on,
makes
Tim.
sense.
Come on, Tim, do math. Right, let's go into the main episode, which is going to contain spoilers for Remnant from the Ashes, and it's a double feature, Elden Ring Nightreign.
Wowee.
Ooh.
Are we doing a skip for this one?
I think that. Nah.
No? Okay.
You believe it's dead. It's not. You give all you got. It's got more. You pause to think. It won't. Prepare to fight the root of all evil.
Welcome back to the episode. As mentioned before, we are going to do a little double feature for you. We're going to do Remnant from the Ashes, which you should have hopefully seen us do on stream some number of months ago. And then we're going to move on to our current collective addiction, which is Elden Ring Nightreign. It's a double feature of Souls-like, and I'm the one hosting it. What kind of topsy-turvy world are we living in, gentlemen?
What nightmarish hellscape is this?
We're in the abyss. Right, we're going to start with Remnant, because I think this is going to be the slightly quicker and less rambly section of it. So, Remnant from the Ashes is a 2019 action RPG released on the PS4, Windows, and Xbox One with, and I didn't know this, a Switch port in March 2023 for some peculiar reason. I don't know who asked for it or why, but 4 years later seems a bit late for a port to me.
I thought you were going to say, and it's also available on Kinect.
It's available on Amazon Fire Stick.
Remnant was developed by Gunfire Games, who their only other notable thing for me is Darksides 2 and 3, and it was published by Arc Games, who are apparently Perfect World Entertainment, a name that I know for some reason, but could not tell you. Generally, it was well received. It got between 75 and 78 with most critics. As I say, we did it on stream, so let's go to our initial thoughts from months ago, and we'll start with Joey.
Remnant was fun. I think it was good fun. It was a Soulsborne game with guns. I think one of the things that I'm not a huge fan of in traditional Soulsborne games is that they're not co-op all the way through. They tend to just be co-op for the boss fights, and then everything in between where you're weapon gathering, etc., is usually single player. But what I really enjoyed was playing a full story with both of you. We really found it quite hard to find a story-based 3-player game, and I'm really glad that Remnant hit that, because it was actually really good fun, to the point where I'm still up for playing Remnant 2. We just haven't done it yet.
I would agree with all those points. Obviously, we started Remnant on the back of having finished Baldur's Gate 3, so like I say, it was good to find a 3-player, something we could do together. Tim?
Yeah, it's a good game. I had fun with it. Like Joey said, it was fun to get a multiplayer based story game that all three of us could do quite happily. My only real gripe with it is it felt like it just kind of ended.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed the individual instances of combat. I really liked some of the designs of the bosses, and some of them had really interesting mechanics to them. But then it just kind of felt like, oh, and here is what is very obviously the final boss, and then that was it.
Do you know what that bit reminded me of? And Alex, this might go over your head, Tim. In a Dark Souls game, when you have that boss that kind of opens up the late stage enemies. So that boss to me felt like the equivalent of Ornstein and Smough in Dark Souls 1, or the Abyss Watchers even in Dark Souls 3. It felt like that point should have been the bit where the difficulty escalated, but it just ended. It just stopped.
Should have been the midpoint of the game almost.
Yeah.
Because it's not a long game. It's like maybe, 20 hours?
I think it was less than that for us. I think we did it in like 16.
That to me...
Yeah, I think 5 or 6 streams we did.
Well, that to me is that is the game's biggest downfall, because I was really enjoying my time with it for the most part. I think there's probably still some balancing issues to work out when you naturally throw guns into a Souls-esque game. There's going to be some balancing to work out, because it did feel like a lot of the time we could just go, oh, look, an enemy 500 meters away, bang, and done. But then we were met with this boss called Nightmare, which we'll get into in the story breakdown bit, and it just kind of stopped. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess if we want to do New Game Plus, there's that. But then I feel like we'd run into the same issue again.
Yeah.
Yep. But that is my only major gripe. There's little things here and there, but solid game.
I think it feels like it's a bit of a Souls-like game almost, because it does tout itself as a Souls-like game with Souls-like difficulty, but with guns instead of melee weapons. But I think we got to a point where we were just melting most of everything. Even a lot of the bosses we didn't have too much trouble with. There was a couple, obviously, that the mechanics weren't too obvious to begin with, and we died the first round. But then after we've got the mechanics, it was like, yeah, this is easy. I don't think I'd have ever played it if it weren't with you two. I don't think it's something I would have picked up for a solo playthrough. But yeah, it was fine. I think if you guys hadn't been so adamant to suggest it, I probably wouldn't have gone for it.
I have a bit of an issue with the Souls-like genre, and it seems to be that a lot, and this isn't an issue, that this isn't a problem that stemmed from the genre itself, but more the developers trying to get into the genre. It seems to be that any developer who puts in a timed dodge seems to brand it with the label Souls-like.
Stamina bar and a time dodge.
That's all it takes, apparently, to be a Souls-like. And this didn't have the difficulty of a Souls-like to me.
I disagree. I think it probably did have the difficulty if you played solo.
Probably solo, yes.
However, I think what the issue Remnant probably faced was more around its balancing around having three people playing at once. So, for example, Alex and I tried this a few months before we played it, and we got to the first boss, and it absolutely melted us for a good, I would say, 40 minutes, right, Alex?
Yeah.
And then when 3 of us played, and we kind of understood what we were doing, I think we beat it on the first try.
Well, how many bosses did we beat first try against? How many it took multiple attempts?
I would say 50-50.
Oh no, I think it was heavily in favour of beating them first time. I think we lost. The ones I can remember losing to are the tree, and the final boss.
I think there might have been one, maybe 2 more. Other than that,
the 2 moth fairy things on the bridge.
We didn't lose to it. No, we didn't.
We lost once to that. Yeah. For sure, we lost once.
Right.
I think I rolled off the bridge at one point.
but my point is, I think that this is a Souls-like, because I think the difficulty for solo is exactly the same as multiplayer. So the difficulty is there. I think another key mechanic in Souls-like is that when you die, all of the enemies come back, and you have to pick up your remnants or souls or coins or runes or whatever they are. There's save points that are like bonfires, which this one had in the form of checkpoints. Bosses with big health bars in an arena, which I guess is not not just Souls-like, but this one took a very heavy inspiration from Dark Souls in the way it was formatted with it, and the way that you manage your weapons. I think was also Dark Souls-esque. I think I would say that this was pretty pure form Souls-like, but I do agree with what you're saying. For other games that are branded as a Souls-like, when actually they could just be called an RPG.
Yeah, like action game.
Yeah.
But no, you are 100% right. I think it is probably just a multiplayer thing. I think if you played this solo, you would probably encounter at least some difficulty spikes,
We're
which is
just
intended.
too fucking good.
Well, that's it. But like, yeah, in playing this 3-player, it actually wasn't particularly tough. I don't think.
No.
I wouldn't go so far as to say easy, but I think if you've got eyes and a screen and a controller, you could probably play it pretty easily with friends.
I thought in part it did get too easy.
It was it was fun, but when you read the Souls-like tag, you're expecting something a bit more insane, regardless of how you're playing it. But that is what it is. Just to touch on the story very briefly, because to be honest, the story was kind of it was fairly standard fare for a sort of post-apocalyptic story. So it takes place on a post-apocalyptic Earth that's been overrun by an interdimensional evil called the Root. You play it as a wandering survivor, driven to put an end to the Root. At the start of the game, you are found fighting for your life, and I think unconscious at the time, by a couple of people from Ward 13, which is a underground bunker of human survivors who are just trying to sort of live through what's going on. They don't seem particularly invested in trying to resolve it more than they are just survive through it and hope someone else deals with it. You are tasked with finding the ward's founder, a man named Ford, and you travel through various locations thanks to portals created by an interdimensional rift. Eventually, after about 15 hours of gameplay, give or take, you find that Ward 17 is housing the source of the Root, and this is a man, boy, person who's on some kind of hospital-looking bed. He's called the Dreamer. You go into his subconscious and you fight the Nightmare, which is the source of all the evil that has destroyed the Earth. You have a big old fight against it, and you destroy it. End of game. Like I said, fairly standard fare. World's in shambles. This is the way to fix it. Go do it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think any of us played it for the story, though.
No.
And I know I made a point of saying 3-player story-based game, but the story definitely took a backseat in this one. Even though there was quite a fairly lengthy tutorial that I basically ignored everything in.
I would also like to point out, when Alex mentioned the boy in the hospital bed, this is the second game in which voice actor Yuri Lowenthal has voiced a genius boy child stuck to a bed as an enemy.
Yeah, you pointed this out before, aren't they, in Guilty Gear?
He plays Bedman in Guilty Gear Xrd.
There you go.
So that's it, confirmed that Remnant and Guilty Gear are in the same universe.
Wouldn't surprise me.
What was the game that we had that had the guy who voiced Sonic?
Dying Light, yeah. It had Roger Craig Smith saying out about he's going to break people's fucking legs and then go get a chili dog.
Very good. Nothing will beat David Hayter, though.
No.
Tim, give us your best David Hayter.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Very good.
Thank you. Metal
This is
Gear.
what the podcast is. This is what the podcast is descended to. Is Tim? You're so fucking hot.
Jesus Christ. The DARPA chief died of a heart attack.
Back to Remnant, so we don't go down the Egoraptor route. The storytelling's fairly linear. There's a couple of branching bits that you can do and a couple of choices that change where you end up. But honestly, I don't think it's not one of these where there's multiple endings to make you want to play through again. There is, I think you mentioned it, Tim. There is New Game Plus in it, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing of note there, really, I would say, is that yes, there is a New Game Plus, but why is there New Game Plus? At least with like Dark Souls, you could be like, oh, I've done a night build. I'm going to pick up this run as a pyromancer, as an example, or a wizard, or a thief, for example.
How can you possibly say a wizard without doing the voice?
Wizard!
Thank you.
But this, every weapon combination is just, do I take the shotgun or the rifle and a knife? Or do I take the pistol and a knife?
That's the thing as well, is there are 3 classes in the game, but they effectively boil down to playing the same jack-of-all-trades soldier. It just changes what benefit you get at the start, and it's a bit like we obviously all played different classes on it, and there was no discernible difference after the first hour and a half.
Yeah,
when we started picking up new cores and stuff and new abilities, it was like, right, well, we're all the same. We're all the same person.
I agree. Tim, I did complete Dark Souls 3 to New Game Plus 10 using the same weapon that I used in New Game Plus.
Right, yeah, but the point there is that you're carrying over the skills that you've carried, that you've brought over from your first run through.
But do you not get that in this New Game Plus?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, then there's no point.
Yeah. Unless there's an achievement tied to it and you happen to be an achievement hunter.
Well, that's what we want.
Yeah.
And that's what we are. We all hunt achievements. Any final thoughts on Remnant from the Ashes?
I still think we should try Remnant 2.
Yeah, I'm down for Remnant 2.
It's meant to be more of the same but improved upon. I think it's meant to be a really good follow-up, but maybe we'll talk about that once, if and when we do it on stream.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Tim?
I mean, for all the nitpicking and criticisms we've given this game, it is a really good game, and I think it is worth a lot of people's time. Just be aware that it is somewhat of a flawed product, and I wouldn't exactly go in there expecting 80 to 100 hours of RPG-based exploration.
No, but I do think it's a good introduction to the Souls genre, because I think, Alex, you're a good case in point of that. So as a little peek behind the curtain for... we're recording video this time as well, Alex, so that'll be captured on there. As a little peek behind the curtain for our Thanks I Hate It series, we have a list of things that we hate that would, be a jumping off point for the person who's hosting. And one of Alex's first ones on there is Souls-like games. But I think because this is such a dramatic twist on what Souls genre generally is, I think it enticed you to play it more because of the familiarity around first-person shooters or even over-the-shoulder shooters, and then being able to do it co-op seamlessly for an entire story. I think that's really impressive, and I think it's a really good entryway to play other Souls-like games, as I know we're going to come on to talk about very shortly.
Yeah, it's almost sort of Souls-like meets Fallout, or that's the kind of feel you get from it. It's a Souls-like meets Fallout. It's not, obviously solo, it's difficult, but if you've got 2 friends to play it with, and you want an introduction to the Souls-like games, crack on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Joey, how would you rate it out of 10? We might as well rate both of them.
Yeah, I think I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think it was quite light as a Souls experience, and I famously love Dark Souls, but I did enjoy the lore. I thought the bosses were interesting. I think the characters, your playable character was probably one of the downsides of the game, which is a bit of a shame. But, it's not the most important thing in the world, and I definitely would say if someone asked me about my time with it, I'd say it was a good use of that time.
Yeah, I'd agree. Tim?
Yeah, about the same. It's I would give it probably
4.
Not a 4. I'd probably go for a 7 out of 10. It's good. It's a really good game, and it's a really good way to get your feet wet if you're interested in Souls-likes, if you're coming over from like even the Gears of War kind of crowd, if you're used to like if you're talking to like a someone who maybe plays over-the-shoulder shooters, and you're like, oh, try Dark Souls. I don't want to try Dark Souls. How about this? Instead, what I'm going to quickly do is I am going to quickly look up. Okay, I was going to say maybe buy it on Steam to check it out, but it is 31 quid on Steam at full price.
Still.
Which, yeah,
But I think Tim's comparison of Gears of War to this is actually a really, really good one.
Yeah.
because like it's not quite a rodeo runner shoulder height high wall kind of coverage thing, but what it's controls and its core gameplay loop is familiar enough for Gears of War players to get their feet wet with a Souls like.
It did have a cover mechanic.
It did, but we never used it.
No, I just ran through the bullets like a real man.
You can buy the full version of the game for Steam on a famous seller website that everyone uses for Steam that definitely isn't CD Keys for just £6.
Oh, yeah, no, for that,
That's
try
not
it.
bad.
It's on Game Pass.
No, it comes on and off Game Pass.
Right, okay.
It's currently in and off.
It's in the off period.
Yeah.
Although it is only £8.37 on Xbox right now. So
There you go.
For now. I think I reflect pretty much everything you guys have said. You've said I've got nothing extra to add. I think I would agree with Tim. It's probably a 7. For me, it was a good time. It wasn't the best time, but it was a good time.
it was the blurst of times.
It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times. And it gives us an ending score for Remnant from the Ashes. 7.16 recurring.
Tim, are you trying to
Tim was
figure
doing
out?
the maths in his
I
head.
was, yeah. I was going to do
7.16.
7.25, but then you went off in a direction I wasn't expecting.
7.25 from 7.7 and 7.5. Come
I
on,
forgot
Tim.
about my score. Shut up.
And now we get to go into the real meat of the episode, gentlemen.
Oh.
We are now going to talk about Elden Ring Nightreign.
The Nightfarers. The will to cross the endless night and fight on. Till every shred of their being is ground away.
Speaking of Souls-like.
Speaking of cocaine, Elden Ring Nightreign, we're being real relevant at the minute. It's a 2025 action roguelike action role-playing Souls game by FromSoft and published by Bandai Namco. So with those two names behind it, you know it's going to be good. It is a spin-off of the Elden Ring game, set in Limveld, which is a procedurally generated version of Limgrave from Elden Ring. It has been mostly well received. We're talking 80-90% across the board, with a lot of 5 out of 5s and 7 out of 7s and what other weird metrics these people use. There are a couple of people I would like to call out for their scores though. The Guardian, Video Game Chronicle, NME and PC Games N all gave it the equivalent of 60%.
Oof.
Which to me feels like none of those people like Souls-like games.
Well, let's see if Tim hasn't flinched at that, so I wonder what he's going to give it as a score.
I like it more than 60%.
Tim gives it a 6.1 out of 10.
Yeah.
So, to run through the game very quickly, and then we'll go into the very specifics of it all. You play as Nightfarers on a quest to dispel the reign of night. There's currently 3... No, there's not.
8.
There's currently... Why have I wrote 3 Nightfarers? There are currently 8 Nightfarers, and the game takes place over... I see where the 3 came from. game takes place over 3 kind of days. On days 1 and 2, you collect loot, level up, defeat minor bosses and mini bosses in the world. And the game also takes a mechanic from Battle Royales in that there is a slowly encroaching night which will shrink your gameplay area. So if you've got places you're going to lose to the night, like the churches for the extra flasks, you better get there early because otherwise you are losing that opportunity. At the end of night 1, you will fight a mini-boss. All of the bosses in this game are from various Souls-like franchises. As far as I'm aware, there isn't any new original bosses.
The Night Lords are all original.
Yeah.
Right. But the mini-boss, the night 1 and 2 bosses, it's all...
Yeah, and all the mini bosses in
fans of the series would know.
Yes.
So at the end of night 1, you will fight a mini boss, and you will get a wonderful little reward, which will help you in night 2. The night repels. You have the full access to the map again. Everything's respawned. Crack on, go find more loot, kill more enemies, keep leveling up. At the end of night 2, you then fight a harder mini boss. And then we get to night 3, which is where you fight one of the Night Lords. Now, this Night Lord you select at the start, so you know what you're going up against, but you need to make sure that you have built your inventory and everything else to be able to deal with this, because these Night Lords are difficult. They are very, very tough, and if you're not built right, you're not gonna necessarily lose straight out the gate, but you're gonna have a bad time. And it's
it puts you at a severe disadvantage. So the game must know how hard the bosses are, because at the very start, where you set out to fight your chosen Night Lord, it tells you selected this Night Lord. They are weak to this weapon type. So you spend the whole game trying to pin down the weapon type that is strong against the Night Lord that you've chosen, almost to the detriment of your Nights 1 and 2 bosses, which are challenging as well, because you are building so much to the hope that you'll get to night 3, that you'll have the correct gear for that fight.
It does feel a bit give with one hand, take from the other, though, because although it tells you at the start, right, this night boss is weak against lightning attacks, you will go onto the map looking for lightning weapons, and 9 times out of 10, there are no lightning weapons.
I mean, it's all luck of the draw, this game. I mean, it's not like when Alex says there's no lightning weapons, like each of the points of interest that you encounter, be that camps or churches or fortresses or whatever, most of them will have some sort of weapon typing associated with it, be that bleed, lightning, frostbite, fire, holy, and
madness.
Poison and madness. Sometimes the element you're looking for is not on there, but that doesn't mean that element can't be on a weapon that you find somewhere else in the world. And sometimes your relics or modifiers that you choose before you embark on these expeditions can impact, the weapon that you start with's elements. So, for example, my most common Iron Eye build, who's an archer, starts out with bleed on his initial weapon. So it's not to say you couldn't get a fire starting weapon or a lightning starting weapon or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Right, let's talk about the Nightfarers that you can choose from, because currently, at time of release, there are 8 Nightfarers to choose from. These are your classes. This is who you'll play as through your entire run. There might be more down the line. I don't know if FromSoft have said anything about whether there is or isn't. Hopefully there is, but there's enough there to really get into it. So, we have the Wilder, which is one of my mains, is a balanced all-rounder with really good speed and attack. I've got a fun little relic that lets me grapple shot onto an enemy and then turn into a fiery Beyblade for a second. It is great fun. We've got the Guardian, which, Joey, you play a bit of the Guardian.
Every now and then, yeah. The Guardian is a tank that starts with a shield. And each of these operators or Nightfarers have passive abilities and a secondary ultimate art, which is their special move, and a primary ultimate art. And the Guardian's passive is that his blocks negate 100% of the damage that comes to them, but his guard stance is really, really strong. So you can take loads of hits whilst shielding. And the idea is to be a bit of a decoy for your team in order to protect them.
Then going down the list, we've got the Iron Item.
That's my main boy. As I mentioned earlier, he's an archer. His whole thing is that he is a support class. He is very good at building status ailments to enemies. So we mentioned earlier the lightning damage or the fire damage or poison damage or bleed damage. Because the archer is able to play from a pretty safe distance, he's able to build up these ailments very, very quickly on enemies, which, because they're often attacking a melee character, for example, the enemies, the archer is also very susceptible to getting counter hits, which also increases his damage output. He also happens to be one of the best healers in the game in terms of reviving your enemy, which we should probably elaborate on. You can be knocked down 3 times.
You can be knocked down infinite
times. But it becomes progressively harder in 3 stages, if you like.
And in true FromSoft fashion, the only way to revive yourself or your teammates is to have your teammates or you hit them with your weapon. Damage them as much as you can until they are up again.
So Iron Eye's really good at this because, again, he can shoot from a distance and his arrows do quite a lot of revive points, if you like, to get the enemies up quite quickly. Joey mentioned the passives and the ultimates. Iron Eye's character ultimate, which is what he has no matter what weapon he's wielding, is a thing called Hunter's Marking, where he can essentially dash forward, and if he hits an enemy or a target, he marks them, which allows players to deal an extra 10% of damage to them while the mark is active. And if the mark reaches a certain point threshold in damage, the enemy gets what's referred to as stance broken, allowing for a massive amount of damage to come out. And his ultimate art is, it's just a big arrow that goes through terrain and buildings and if it's in a straight line, it's going through it. And
it's a rail gun.
It's a rail gun, but it's also fantastic at reviving your teammates.
It's pretty much guaranteed, apart from 3 bars, I think.
Pretty much.
Next up is one that I think, Joey, you've possibly played a little bit of, but I don't think me or Tim have touched it. Duchess.
Yeah, Duchess is a bit of a hybrid between melee and magic builds, so she's pretty strong with a lot of stuff, but she has quite low HP. She's also very quick. Her arts are pretty useful. One of them turns you invisible, which stops enemies targeting you, and this also works for any teammates that are in a radius of you. But the secondary one is actually the more interesting one. You cast a spirit of the enemy that you're locked onto, and then they receive the damage that they received in the last 10 seconds again. So if everyone is like wailing on a boss and you take a massive chunk of your health, its health off, and then you activate Duchess's secondary art, it will continue to take the damage that you're dealing as well as that chunk again that you dealt it within the last 5 or 10 seconds.
It's a really interesting design decision, that.
Very cool.
It's very useful.
She's also basically Bloodborne the character with her mobility.
Yeah. She's very quick, and with the quick attacks means she's quite good at getting you back up if you've fallen down.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got the Raider, which I think me and Joey have played a little bit of, but he is a big, powerful fighter, and he favours oversized weapons. Any massive hammers, massive axes, massive swords that you might pick up, that is all for the Raider. He has his primary art is it's a weird punch. I think it's got quite a high possibility of stance breaking, because I've knocked a couple of minor bosses over with it. And then his full art is he creates a big totem block thing, which I believe has some sort of powering up effect around for people near it. I know there's a lot of gems that increase your stats if you are near that totem, but to be honest, I don't really know what it does.
Well, it gives you higher ground, and you're right, it ups everyone's strength by +3 or something like that for the duration that it's up. It also deals a fair amount of damage to the boss if you can get them underneath it.
Yeah. Which is really funny with the spider boss, because you knock her up with it. It's very funny.
Get her pregnant.
You do, yeah.
Jesus
You have a
Christ.
rock spider baby. Tim, this next one is all you, the Revenant.
I always get these mixed up. It's not the Recluse.
No, it's not the Recluse, it's Revenant. It's the one with the family.
Yes, okay. So, the Revenant is a small girl who is very angry and wants revenge on all the Night Lords. That's her story, the long and short of it. But her whole gimmick is that she has the ability to not only summon enemies that she has previously killed, that she's got a 10% chance of summoning enemies that she has killed to fight alongside her. She's also got this like lyre, this harp, like little lyre instrument to summon what's called the family. Alex alluded to it then. By pressing a combination of either left trigger, right trigger, left bumper, or right bumper, you can summon one of 3 different spirits to fight alongside you. There is Helen, who is useless.
God damn it,
Helen the worst.
We have a joke that Helen is so Helen's like a soldier,
yeah,
who's not very powerful.
She's fast.
Doesn't do a lot of damage, but is fast. And we have a joke that Helen is useless and like Dee from It's Always Sunny.
Then there is Frederick, who is a giant man who wields a big hammer. Again, kind of useful. He's a little slow, but he hits relatively hard. And then there's the MVP, the GOAT. You know him, you love him. Sebastian, the big skeleton. Sebastian is the top half of a skeleton, and he is giant. He has 1 arm and no legs. And he will stay in place and scream and smack and fire a giant beam at anything that just fucking moves. He is incredible to have. And
The GOAT.
He's the GOAT. He genuinely saved us a number of times. Because we mentioned earlier that you can hit your teammates to revive them. Sebastian is very good at that.
And what's really cool with all the family, but particularly with Sebastian, if you, as the Revenant goes down, Sebastian persists.
It's not just
so if
that.
you crawl under him, and he will just whack you until you get up.
It's not just that. As long as the family spirits aren't already attacking something, if you as the Revenant will go down, they will prioritize you. And Revenant has got some of the best revival-based healing in the game. She's very good at it.
She's very useful.
Oh, and her ultimate, it grants everyone, including your spirits, immortality. Not invulnerability. You can still take damage, but your health can never be 0 for a period of time.
Nice.
Which comes in pretty clutch.
Oh, it's very good. Especially when you get the relic that causes a giant blood loss explosion when you trigger it. It gets a little silly.
Big silly.
Big silly. We've got 2 more to get through. So Recluse is one of mine, and I know Tim's been playing her a little bit. She is a witch of the swamp, and she is entirely magic-based, relying on sorceries and incantations. She has her art is something called the magic cocktail. So when enemies get hit by a magic spell, or any form of magic, whether that comes from a weapon attack or a magic spell that you cast, you can draw in the essence of that element. So there are 4 elements: holy fire, lightning, and magic. you draw in those elements. When you've drawn in 3 elements, you do an effect of some variety, which is dependent on what you've brought in. So if you've brought in 3 fire, it's a flamethrower. If you brought in 3 magic, it's a homing magic bomb thing. Where it gets really interesting with this is when you start mixing magics. So if you pull in lightning and fire, for example, you do a dash at the enemy followed by a electrical explosion. If you pull in fire and magic, it's a bomb that follows them, but it is a lot bigger and it explodes.
My favourite one, I think, that I found when I was dabbling with her was pulling in 2 holy magic and a lightning magic to combine it. And all it does is it creates this massive AoE that only affects your teammates and means that your summons and your special abilities do not cost anything, which is very helpful for her.
The problems with Recluse is she is a glass cannon, so she has very little health. She's also terrible when it comes to reviving allies. So if both your friends are down on 3 bars and you are Recluse, you might as well just, give yourself to the enemy at that point. And then her ultimate art is a blood sigil thing. You're immune to damage while you're casting it, and it marks any enemies in the area with something that means as your allies are attacking them, they are constantly regaining HP and FP.
Nice.
It's very good, very good. And the last of our wonderful Nightfarers is the Executioner, Joey.
My favourite. He's a ninja, which is cool. But he is another one like Tim's Iron Eye that basically relies on status effects. So your katana by default has bleed damage, and with the right relic combination, you can have it create poison and frost from your starting armament, which is insane if you think about it, because you can just absolutely wipe health bars with it. His ultimates are, the first one, he has a sword that if you block with the correct timing, it's 3 hits, and if you get 4 hits on you that you've parried, it becomes holy and it unleashes a really strong attack. I'm very bad at this, so I don't use it. But the main art, which is awesome, is he turns into a giant dog thing and can absolutely flatten enemies and bosses. It's also good for reviving when that comes around.
If you look at
Execution is fun.
If you look at those cringe TikTok videos where the guy transforms into a wolf to protect the
that's
girl at
me.
school, that's the Executioner.
That's me, yeah.
I am the alpha.
Yeah. I have 2 dogs inside of me. Please help.
So wow. Yeah, those are all the Nightfarers that you can pick from. It's a good spread of different play styles, depending if you want to be tanky, if you want to be unga bunga, swing a big weapon, if you want to be a bit more technical with it, with people like Recluse and Duchess. It's a good spread, and there's something for everyone there. Every Souls-like fan has got something to enjoy.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, you're not the biggest Souls guy, and you're enjoying it, right?
This game is like crack to me. I think since we started playing it about 2-3 weeks ago, Joey,
something like that. Yeah,
something.
You
like
got
that.
it on release day.
I got it on release day, which was
last month, beginning of this month, June. I mean, because I don't know when this episode goes out.
The 30th of May.
30th of May. End of May.
It's not even been out a month yet, and my total playtime is 47 hours.
Wowzers.
Oof.
Can I say something controversial about Nightreign?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a Souls-like.
Dun dun dun.
I think it has Souls-like elements, but I think the nature of the short single runs where you take runes out of your run to improve your next one, I think it's more of a roguelike than a Souls-like.
But it's definitely got the roguelike elements. I mean, Joey, you got some flack in our Discord for saying that this doesn't have Balatro elements when it by definition does.
I said it's Elden Ring meets Balatro, and I got flack.
Of course it is. It's a roguelike that entirely depends on randomly based modifiers. Why? How is that not Balatro?
I agree.
Um,
But I do think, like, it's got Souls-like elements. I'm not saying it is completely far from the genre, but I think if you go by the nature of what a Souls-like is, and I think a big important part of a Souls-like is a continuous story where you choose which areas you level up in, and it doesn't have either of them. Well, it does, but it's in a very convoluted story. But the level up system as well, I think, removes it from being a Souls-like.
Yeah, because you go to a site of grace and you press A, does it
Yeah,
automatically
so-
for you?
So in a Souls-like game, you could, if you wanted to, and you are absolutely insane, pump every single stat level up from start to finish into your health, and you could have a gargantuan health bar, but absolutely nothing to do with it while you're alive. Or you could be sensible and spread it around based on the character that you're building. But I think that because of the inability in this game to actually source a chosen weapon. So, Tim, if I said to you, you're playing Elden Ring, what's your build? You would be able to tell me your armor, your weapon, everything that you have decided. Whereas if I said in Nightreign, what's your build? You would say, oh, it's Iron Eye.
Yeah.
And you go and you pick up the randomly generated weapons that are allocated to you, rather than being able to say. So if I was playing Elden Ring, I would go to the Temple of the Giants or the Mountain of Giants, and I would source out Rivers of Blood, which is a katana that I loved using in Elden Ring.
Rivers of
But I
Blood
can't
is
do it
insane.
in this because it's RNG.
Yeah.
So I think, whilst it has Souls-like bosses, I don't think it's a Souls-like.
We've done something interesting with this episode here, where we've both picked games that are both cusping on the Souls-like genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, and similar to what we said to Remnant, if you want something that's going to give you an introduction to the Souls-like genre, this is a pretty good one. Obviously, it has like because the mini bosses that you're fighting are from Souls-like games, from Souls titles. They have the same sort of attack patterns and everything else that they do in those games. So I could now go into Elden Ring and I could fight. I assume that the avatar of the Erd tree's in the Elden Ring. So I could go fight that and go, right, I kind of have an idea of what his attack patterns are going to be because of Nightreign. But then I'd also have to remember that Elden Ring has fall damage.
I think I love this game. Feels like a bit of a love letter to the Soul series, with the bosses appearing and the weapons that you get from it. It's a really fine line, I think, between a love letter and a circle jerk around From Software games. It's a bit of both. So the point where we played the other night, and another boss that I spoke about in the DLC a while ago, the Dancer of the Boreal Valley, showed up as one of the Night 2 bosses. And Tim and I were like, oh, I had no idea this is in this. This is wicked. And Alex, you were asking all these questions about the Dancer. And it's a Dark Souls boss. So if you look in the universe of From Software games, Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring actually have nothing aligned apart from the Moonlight Greatsword, which is the one thing that ties it all together. The Gaping Dragon is another one. It's one of my favourite bosses out of Dark Souls 1, and it makes an appearance in this as a mini boss. And I think that, like I said, this is a good love letter to Dark Souls fans. But I also think if you are planning to go in it with randoms and you haven't played Dark Souls, you're probably not going to have a great time.
I suppose that is something worth mentioning. There is no in-game communication in Nightreign, so if you go in with a group of randoms, you are basically running on the hope that one of you will know what you're doing and will control the map by pinging where to go. if that doesn't happen, you end up in a situation where you've got 3 people running in 3 different directions, doing 3 different goals, and none of you will succeed.
Can I ask though? Do we think that it's a bad thing that there's no in-game communication?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
I think there'll be a lot of people screaming at each other.
Well, there is the most basic form of in-game communication in that you can buy what they call a prattling plate that says, hello, thank you, I need help, and you're welcome. But no one ever uses them. I think Tim hit the nail on the head. The Dark Souls community and whoever came up with Get Good is a stupid, really toxic, gatekeepy, horrible thing. Yeah. And I think if this had in-game communication, all you'd get is people saying "get good" and going mad at like a death at one of the Night Lords.
Yeah. But sometimes, but like a lot of the time, like Alex mentioned, the pinging, it's like a really good system to be like, I'm planning on going over here, or we should go over here. But then other players will find different means of communicating with each other anyway. Like you can do little emotes where, for example, your character might point at something in a room, or I don't know, running in a circle around something to be like, hey, look at this. That sort of thing. There's little bits you can do without calling someone a word that your boss would probably get you in trouble for.
I agree.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's, like I say, it's a great time if you've got friends to play it with. If you are going in random with people, you are not going to have a good time. So definitely make sure that you've got 2 friends who are willing to put the money down.
Tim's going to disagree with you here.
I'm going to disagree. I actually really like the matchmaking in this.
That's because you don't like playing with us.
That's not true. No, I just think the matchmaking is really solid in this, and I've had nothing but good experiences with it.
See, I've had the opposite. I've had I would say probably 40% of my random matchmaking, someone drops out intentionally. You know, you'll have a single death on a world mini boss, and they'll just go, nope, fuck this, dead run, or whatever, and they'll just drop out. And it's you get the same thing when you're doing matchmaking in things like MOBAs and things like, you know, what Call of Duty Warzone, those battle royales. That's the genre I'm looking for, and it just ruins it because you're now, you know, you're in a lobby with two of you when it should be 3, and it puts you at a significant disadvantage because the game does not scale down to match the fact that you've lost someone.
No. I mean, the game's very clearly designed around 3 players being on the team at a time. And I guess I've been very lucky with the matchmaking that I've had to have never had a bad experience. In fact, at the time of recording, there is an event on in Nightreign now to be a special form of one of the bosses called Gaping Jaw. And in my first attempt with this, the party I was with, it was 2 of the random players. We had finished the Night 2 boss, and we had just died to an ice dragon just outside of the Night 2 boss circle, prior to the Night 2 boss. And between us, just through communicating by running in a circle at the edge of the second Night boss arena, we managed to work out that we each wanted to run back into the night. Because if you run outside the circle or into the night, you'll take damage over time. And just chip away at this dragon over and over again. Because the worst we've got to lose is we lose our runes. We've already dropped a level. We just go pick up the level, do some more damage to the dragon, rinse and repeat. And because of that, we were able to get to the max level of 15 in time for the final fight against this special event boss. It was really cool to see.
Nice.
Good cooperation.
Good boy.
Good lads. Or ladies. We don't know.
We don't know.
Give us game chat so we can know who is and isn't.
Tim, stop.
Such a predatory move.
I could never.
We're gonna stop with that now, and we're gonna go to final thoughts and scores, and we're gonna start with. We might as well start with Tim and get it out the way.
3 out of 10. No ladies in voice chat.
Who do I know who my gamer girls are? No, No, like it's really good. It's really good. There's little points of frustration here and there. Like for example, the targeting in this game, if you're locking onto an enemy or a teammate to try and revive them, can be a little shonky. I would also maybe say that some of the in-game cosmetic stuff, like the different skins, is a little expensive. FromSoft, please do a sale or something. You can't pay real money for these skins, but at the same time, I don't want to grind out 15 years of my life so I can look cool as a bird. You know?
Yeah.
But in terms of the score, well, first of all, absolutely recommended, especially if you've got two other friends who also play FromSoft games. Big plus. I'd probably go for like an 8 out of 10. I really enjoy this game. It's very addictive.
Nice.
Oh, I haven't tried it on the Steam Deck. I need to, though.
Naughty.
Joey?
Good game. Good fun. I would side with what Alex said and say play it with friends. It's a real challenge, and it's one of those games, and I think FromSoft do this better than anyone else. If I die in a video game, I am the usual salty gamer that gets really peed off around why I died, when I died, etc., etc. And it's really rare, even in a game where you're meant to die as often as you do, like Nightreign, where I get annoyed because I think it's anyone's fault other than my own. And I think that's a sign of a good, well put together game. So, yeah, good game. Enjoyed it. Play with friends. 8.5 out of 10.
8.5. Yeah, so for me, this game has made me install Elden Ring. Which I've had an experience of Elden Ring in the past, and I fucking hated it to the point that I refunded the game at the time. I did not have a good time, but because it's sprinklings of Souls-like elements, it's giving me. It's almost like a tutorial for the game proper. Mm-hmm. It's giving me ideas and hints at how the game works, to the point that I'm not immediately hating my time in Elden Ring. As I said, I've got about 40-something hours in this game now. It is like crack for me. Highly recommend with friends. If you want to play it with randoms, that's your prerogative. Good luck. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but you can have some good runs with people.
Joey mentioned earlier that he doesn't think this is a Souls-like. Do we think it'd be fair to call this a Souls-light?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'd say
definitely.
So. It's a roguelike Souls-light.
Yeah.
Try saying that 5 times really fast. Anyway, I'm giving it an 8.5, like Joey. And it's a shame this isn't a Thanks I'd Hate It, because that would have been a major success for a Thanks I Hate It. Woo!
Wow, he didn't hate it.
He didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it, which gives it 8.333 and so on and so forth, which I think is fair. It about matches the critic reviews. We all had a good time.
Nice.
Next up on the docket for Game Club is going to be Joey's game.
We're playing South of Midnight, which I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts. Tim, stop wiggling your eyebrows. It's really off-putting.
He's just thinking about them gamer girls.
Yeah, because the lead character is a gamer girl. So, no, we're playing South of Midnight, which I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts on. We'll bring a skip back for that, because we'll definitely do it in a possibly offensive accent. Let's see. Who knows?
Let's see if that's the episode we get cancelled.
Find out in a month's time.
Tim, what's happening?
Find out in a month's time with the Game Club Pod Boys.
Tim, what's happening? I just
feel like
next
you're
week?
Doing the
Dukes
Duke
of
Boys.
Hazzard,
Yeah. What's happening is that I'm pulling up the score sheet right now.
Tim, it's Gris.
It is Gris. Yes, that one.
We're recorded a month ago.
We are playing Gris, gifted to us by the lovely Josh. We're playing it on an episode of Thanks, I Hate It, because Alex doesn't like platformers.
Alex is bad at platformers, but what I'm learning because of this bloody podcast is the games that I don't like and I'm not good at, I end up enjoying.
And then after that we have a biased anime pod, followed by our next episode of Cutscenes with Ready Player One. And then it's south of midnight.
Yeah, we're going to go and record Ready Player One now.
Wow.
Goodbye,
Wow.
friends.
Goodbye.
Bye. Mwah. Joey,
I have to stop it.
Tragedy must be averted. And for that, I need your help.
Stand tall. The night is far from over. Little pillager, bent on sacking the lands of gold. I will swat away any and all who dare approach.
Band together and prepare to claim. The life of the Night Lord.